Very soft-spoken, hard-nosed kid.
He was a tight end, a big boy, 6'4".
He's very quick, very determined.
He lets his actions speak for him.
Leading by example, I think, was one of the qualities that I always admired about Jim.
Three-sport guy, which nowadays don't hear that too often anymore.
You know, he also punted for us. He played basketball, he played baseball. He was a super athlete.
It was always pretty well known that if we needed a good punt, Jimmy could pull that off, and oftentimes did it.
He worked hard on the field, he worked hard on the court, and with a gentle soul about him.
As the middle brother of the three, I've gravitated towards him as not only a mentor, but as a pseudo coach, and someone that I can talk to when times get difficult about how's the best way to handle this. And he has very, very unique perspectives.
Jim did what others didn't want to do, and Jim loved doing it.
He was very talented, and in fact, he moved up to varsity his sophomore year.
He was a big guy for back then. I mean, you got to understand, this was, I don't even know how many years ago now.
Hair was a lot longer. You could smoke in senior lounge. Things were a little looser, so to speak, but the tradition was rich.
There really is a theme running through school, as men for others. Jimmy truly exudes that quality.
You could count on him. I mean, if the guy said, I could make this play, he could make that play. He wasn't kidding.
It was a pleasure to play with. As a guard, you appreciate people who catch the basketball and can finish.
He had the respect of his peers. I think that says a lot for him.
He's one of those guys that was a steady worker, but then, you watch the film on Sunday and you go, thank God he was out there.
He had multiple big plays. I mean, what he did, honestly, never showed up in the scorebook, never showed up in the headlines.
He wasn't one of those guys that was out there pounding his chest, tearing his hair out and rousing his teammates up that we got to do this and we got to do that, kill, 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 and all that business that you hear so much about in sports.
Back in the day when, in the 90s, I show up at a game at Jacobs Field, and who's singing the national anthem that day? Jim Jenson. I'm like, where'd that come from?
Wait a minute, I never knew. I never knew he could also be a musician and a singer. But it was kind of a guy. He was multi-talented.
And it was just so entertaining to see him up there, just a natural in front of the crowds. You'd say, Jimmy could punt the ball, Jimmy could catch the ball, Jimmy can shoot the ball. Jimmy could also pick up a guitar and play a mean Neil Young.
Jimmy chose to go to University of Dayton, out of Ignatius.
And played tight end, but I think mostly his kicking is what made him stand out there, his punting ability.
He's one of the better players on the team that won the national championship his senior year, the Stag Bowl, in 1981, I believe.
To me, if I had a football team here that I was putting together again, Jim Jenson would be at the top of the list.
We couldn't have been the team that we were back in the 70s without a Jim Jenson.